Hello, Night Nation. I'm Trylko from the Sons of UCF, joined by Eric Lopez of the Black and Gold Banneret. Welcome to Around the Kingdom. Elo, hello. Haven't seen you in a while. How you been?
Good. It's good to be back from Oklahoma City, covering the Big 12 championships. Coming up, UCF softball makes history, making the 5th straight NCAA tournament, but they're not going to be playing in the state of Florida. We'll explain what. We'll explain that. Plus, is Scott Frost still an innovative mind, ladies and gentlemen? And are there still, we're going to a 16-team playoff in football? What's the point of a regular season? We'll argue and debate and discuss on this edition of the fastest UCF show around the kingdom.
Before we get going with that, Elo, let us welcome in the third member of our team. He is Adam Eaton from the Sons of UCF. Keeps an eye on the clock, keeps us on our toes. Adam, hello.
Gents, good to see you both again. Listen, I feel for you guys. It's the dog days are approaching, not a lot going on. I can't wait to see how you stretch 30 minutes of content on this week's Around the Kingdom.
Challenge accepted. The Sons of UCF on site for the Varsity Nights golf tournament. All the glitterati of the UCF scene there, including Daunte Culpepper. Elo, a little different approach this week on Around the Kingdom. Let's hear from Daunte Culpepper on UCF head coach Scott Frost, and then a little reaction, please.
Love Coach Frost. I think he has what it takes to get us to where we want to go in this Big 12, and I think that with this innovative mind and the way he approaches the game of football, I think we can be very successful.
All right, Elo. Innovative mind, says Daunte Culpepper of Scott Frost. Agree?
Well, first of all, great to see Daunte around, right? I think to me that's the big story. That's
any eligibility left? Could we get him back under center?
Oh man, if we could. I've always said if you had him on, you put him on that 2017 team, yeah, he might have been a Heisman Trophy finalist. I mean, he was unbelievable. We're going to find out this year, right? Isn't that one of the many things? Is what does Scott Frost still have that innovative mind offensively that we saw at UCF, and before that, even when he was the offensive coordinator at Oregon under Chip Kelly and company? I think that's, to me, the big question, and I think everybody's curious by that. And we're going to see with this kind of a no-name offense, if you will. There's no big names, at least, that's going to be going into this season offensively. So I think to be determined. I know we got to see them play on the field, but I do think that shows you that Scott's got the support of the alumni, Trace, which has not always been the case with UCF football coaches.
Well, the challenge is well documented that head coach Frost had at Nebraska. Did you get a sense during his tenure there, a lot of close losses, a lot of mistakes leading to losses, that the offense was innovative, that the team was innovative?
Well, but part of that might have been, too, he didn't have the material there and the talent at the Big Ten level. Did his offense fit there? I think he's probably changed some things since then. We'll see. The sport has changed. He hasn't coached in college in a few years. But at the same time, he's been around Sean McVay and the Rams. So I'm curious to see if he picks up some things from McVay that he's applied to his offense once we see it on the field. So, again, one of the many interesting questions. Of course, this team will need a lot of new faces. And how do you build chemistry, Trace? Well, you build it with perhaps being a tight group. And let's play here from Scott Frost and, of course, Mackenzie Milton talking about on the football family and what they're building.
It's a neat brotherhood. I don't know some of the guys. Some of the guys I know really well, but everybody's supportive. I don't think they feel like anybody owes them anything. It's just a brotherhood of guys, and everybody's rooting for us, and that's really cool to see from an alumni base.
Yeah, brotherhood, right? That's the one thing that Scott Frost has the support of, right? And he's talked about having that family atmosphere. Will that be enough in the fall, Elo? Will that keep the fan base at bay if the team on the field struggles, knowing that they are a tight-knit unit?
It doesn't hurt, though. Isn't that been part of the issue with maybe the last couple of seasons? The felt that the team just didn't gel. I think that's fair. I mean, we saw that gel in the 2 years Scott was here. I think he does believe in that strongly. And I think, yes, chemistry helps. Mackenzie Milton has brought it up. You heard Scott Frost there on the clip. I do think that matters. And I think that is the right approach that you have to take, because you can't just if you're going to bring in a bunch of new guys, they've got to fit. And I just feel like, Trace, and I don't know if you agree or not, I feel like the last 2 years, the chemistry was just not there with the football team at all.
And it showed on the field, right? West Virginia head coach Rich Rodriguez saying, with as much turnover that goes on every year in college football, you've got to have good culture to get you through some struggles. And how Frost and Rodriguez's success in West Virginia will be dependent upon that, Elo, right? They've got to bring together a team. And for Frost, that began in spring. You heard all the right notes from everybody. Of course, there's a long way to go until fall and tough opponents. You mentioned it with the tenure at Nebraska. But does he have the players to compete in the Big 12? That was his struggle, having the right players, the right mix of players to compete in the Big 10.
We still don't know if he has the players or not to contend in the Big 12, at least not this year.
Overreaction. CBS Sports, Shehan Jarajaha. I'm waiting for Adam. He was a recent guest, Shehan, on Sons of UCF Live. I'm waiting for Adam to give me a correction on the pronunciation at the end. Talking about UCF, saying the offense lacks weapons. First-year coach Scott Frost made some intriguing additions on the defensive side of the ball. The offense, however, has many more issues. Have you read yet a preseason account of UCF in which you've seen anything favorable? The highest I've seen him ranked in the Big 12 as well. National media down on this team. A lot to prove. Of course, they were also down on Arizona State a season ago. And we know how that turned out for the Sun Devils.
I was going to just say that. Anybody was pumping up Scatterboo a year ago at this time? Probably not. So listen, college football media people, I've always felt, no disrespect to any of them out there. I have a lot of friends in the college football media, but they are the most cynical and have nothing better. They really don't have a life, honestly. So this is what they do. You got to come up. No, seriously. Like, you at least have the Cubs in Orlando City that you could do outside of UCF. I have other interests outside of these people. Don't. I most of them don't. So they have to write in May something. So we're going to make observations on a team that hasn't even been on the field yet, Trace. How do we know? Why? Because these guys didn't get opportunities elsewhere because they haven't, played a lot. I mean, but remember what they were saying about Mackenzie Melton going into 2017? I don't know if the quarterback's kind of shaky. I think people are just you're trying to get content in May and June, and you're trying to jump to conclusions when we don't know. We haven't seen this team play. How about we just watch a game first before we determine that? Because how do you know they don't have talent?
But what's the best you could say? If you don't agree with what is the cynicism here, what is the best that you could say? If you don't have them ranked towards the bottom, how high would you have them?
I don't think it's a question of how high you would have them. You have to have a wait and see approach. And I know that's not a popular opinion when it comes to content producing there, but I think it's a wait and see approach. I mean, I don't remember like by those standards. I'm sure if we did this show back in 2016 in Scott's first year, coming off a winless year, they're like, I don't know. They don't have a lot to work with. So Look, I think this is good news for UCF. Please dismiss this team. Do not even bring them up, because I think actually you're doing Scott Frost and this team a favor, because I think that's how they prefer it. I think this team does not, as we've seen the last couple of years, expectations, they don't handle it well. So I'm all for it. Please just keep dogging us. We have nothing. We have nothing to offer on this team. Just look past us. Go pump up the Utahs of the world that you guys pretty much gave us. All of us gave us the Big 12 title last year. We saw how well that turned out. And of course, hey, speaking of college football media with no life, Brett McMurphy, perfect guy.
Segue.
Talks about a couple of ACC coaches summing up of the available players left on the transfer portal as, quote, "It's full of trash right now. There's no one worth adding." Ouch. Trace, your reaction to that?
Do you think that was an exact quote or an embellished quote, Elo?
Probably a little embellished.
We see a lot of people, a lot of students want to go into that transfer portal and they think the grass is greener. And for some, they get the paydays that show that it is greener for them, at least, and the paycheck. But a lot of them are not going to land on better teams. If an accurate quote, I do find it interesting that those ACC coaches don't see better in the portal than what they have on their rosters. And we won't know, obviously, with UCF, what kind of talent they have acquired through the portal. But some of the schools that they come from, and maybe that's not fair. Maybe that's about brand names. Elo, you've talked about that through the years. But some of them you go, is this going to be some sort of diamond in the rough? This is where this talent development is going to have to be on steroids for UCF. They're really going to have to hit right on the guys they brought into the portal. But I find that comment interesting, that maybe other schools are not finding a lot in that portal that will make them better.
Well, first of all, when I think of, evaluating football talent, the ACC as coaches are not the first people I come to mind as far as going to for a commentary on this. My question to you, though, Trace, is this. Every year I keep hearing about, hey, look, it's going to slow down. Eventually, there's not going to be as many people in the portal. They're going to figure it out. It's not greener. And yet I keep seeing every year the number's still big. Do you think it'll ever get smaller where people realize, I'm good where I'm going to stay here. I'm not going to chance it. I don't know, man. It feels like it reminds me of all these NBA guys that enter the draft and don't get drafted. Every year is like, oh, they'll learn from that. People will learn from that.
Because it's not going to be me. I'm going to land.
That's the problem.
It's going to be somebody else. They won't land, but I'll land. And they only know their situation and they think they're better than maybe what they are.
Well, and the problem is they're usually surrounded by people that give them bad advice. Usually they're family members who don't know what the heck they're talking about, but somehow they think they do.
However, if they get the money, it's hard for them to turn that down. So, in a Chase and Johnson situation going to USC, maybe the payday is just too strong. You can't turn that kind of money down. Speaking of the ACC, North Carolina, you know them, and Bill Belichick, still the most laughable week 3 matchup there. Scott Frost, Bill Belichick, but will it happen? Meadowlark Media's Pablo Torre saying things have gotten so messy with Belichick, his girlfriend, Jordan Hudson, UNC. There were talks within the last week that North Carolina had banned Jordan Hudson from the team offices. He says there's a real chance Belichick will not be the head coach by the time week 1 rolls around. That would be a shocker, wouldn't it, Elo, not to see Bill Belichick at the bounce house this fall.
When did Pablo Torre become Entertainment Tonight reporter here, gossiping on relationship with the football? I don't understand. I wish you would expand on that. What?
Because it's May, Elo. Everybody needs that content before league media days get underway.
I guess that's what it is. I mean, I'm with you. I mean, I agree it's a little weird over there, but I don't think Bill, there's skepticism reasons to be skeptical if this will work or not. But to suggest that Bill's not going to get to the first game of the season, what does that mean? What? Who's going to take over as the coach? Why? Because she's not liked by some of the people at Carolina or whatever. I find that hard to believe. He's the head coach. I think he gets at least a year. Trust me, television networks. He was just on ESPN today. That first game of the season it was announced today as we do this on Tuesday night. It was announced that North Carolina's first game will be that Monday night ESPN game, which is going to draw a big number. So there's a lot of people. There's a lot of interest and invest in this. And Pablo's very respectable on this, but I just find this weird. It's one of the weirder stories.
What do you expect from North Carolina from a ratings perspective? Their record notwithstanding, you don't see him reaching that interest level that we saw from Deion Sanders, do you?
Not to that
maybe
level.
Initially, right?
I think there's curiosity. I think that first game is going to do well. I think there is interest. I have heard that Fox is interested in the North Carolina UCF game as a possible big noon kickoff because of the Belichick factor. So I think there's curiosity there that people are always curious, something new. And I think early on people will tune in and then we'll see where it goes from there. But, hey, maybe Bill can make, in fact, some people have the Tar Heels this year as a sleeper playoff team. If the conferences get their way, there's now reports on 3 Sports that a 16-team college football playoff bracket is gaining support.
I'm shocked, Elo.
I know, shocking development here. Is gaining support in the Big Ten and the SEC per Ross Dellinger, where they would get 4 automatic bids from the SEC, 4 from the Big Ten, 2 from the ACC, 2 from the Big 12, 1 from the Group G6, and then 3 at-large bids.
I wonder where those 3 at-large are coming from.
Yeah. There's also conversations of the Big Ten, the SEC could have playing games, 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5 to get into the playoff. Trace, we're going to 16, aren't we?
Yeah, and then beyond, they'll keep expanding. How they continue to manage it with the existing bowl structure is one interesting aspect of it, but there is no amount of greed on the part of the Big Ten and the SEC. They want all of the slots or the majority of the slots, and they'll keep pushing it and keep squeezing. I'm not sure how the Big 12 hangs on. What are they proposing 2 here? I guess that's 1 more than they might have gotten, but you can see that gulf continues.
Are you proud of yourself, Trace? You're proud of yourself here?
Here we go.
8 years ago, the cartel, let's expand it. Let's have a big playoff. Here you go.
I'm not anti-playoff. I'm anti-SEC and Big Ten
16
gobbling up the majority of the spots.
That's what's going to happen here. Let me ask you, why am I watching the regular season?
Well, but you can say that of the other leagues as well, right?
But wasn't that what made college football special, is that every game mattered in the regular season. Now, we're just, 16 teams. Like Alabama can get in with 4 losses. They're 3 losses. Like it's the SEC Big Ten Invitationals, what this is. And the Big 12, though, probably has to take this deal because I don't see another path where they can get multiple teams into in this playoff.
Yeah, what you just said there, these other leagues, ACC, Big 12, they have to take it. What are they going to do? Right. All right, time to bring back in Adam and our silly game. Adam.
We are back for the silly game, friends. Before I get to that, though, don't forget, we are brought to you by our good friends at Florida Football Prep. They are your #1 spot. If you need youth football gear, maybe you got a team, you want to get them outfitted with the right gear, Florida Football Prep is where you want to go. Hit their website up at floridafootballprep.com. Also, if you need to break into your footballs, you want them conditioned and ready for game action, they can absolutely make sure that works for you. So check out their unique conditioning method as well on their website. floridafootballprep.com is where you go if you want unique gear or you want broken in footballs. All right, gentlemen, this week's game, pretty easy, pretty loose. I just have some questions. You give me some answers. Elo, I'll start with you. Andrea Adelson from ESPN had an article this week with Scott Frost. And one of the things that Husker fans, Nebraska fans, picked up on is Frost's reluctance to talk about Nebraska, even say the word Nebraska. So, Elo, my question for you is this. Nebraska fans should feel how about Scott Frost right now?
They should get over him. Like, get over it. Like, move on. Go support Matt Rule and play, that meeting, that exciting Big Ten football, whatever. Like who cares? Like, you guys had your time with him. I don't think you treated him as well as you should have, to some extent. And they should just just hope he does well. I don't see why should there be any ill will. I don't understand that from a Nebraska standpoint. Hey, Nebraska, I don't know if you've noticed, you haven't won squat since 95, and I'm cleaning the language so Adam doesn't have to do extra work. Trust me, I'm sick of Nebraska fans. I can tell you that. I don't want the most irrelevant, overrated fan base in college football. Nebraska.
Nebraska fans should be indifferent. I think, as we have seen with UCF players, coaches moving on. Wish them well.
Yeah,
they're no longer part of the program. Let it go. I'm with Elo on this. Why are they hanging on to this? Focus on the team you have for the year that you have ahead and stop talking about Scott Frost. I don't blame him for not mentioning that place.
Exciting news for this week, Trace. I'll start with you on this one. Colton Gordon, former UCF pitcher, making his major league debut for the Houston Astros coming up here sometime this week. So here's my question for you guys. Between football, basketball, and baseball, which of those sports is the toughest to crack the professional ranks in? Which sport is harder to get to the ultimate league? Football, basketball, or baseball?
Basketball, right? You don't even have a deep first round draft, much less anything meaningful in the second round. And climbing from the G League or other leagues to the NBA is a tough haul. So I'd say the NBA, I'd say basketball.
I'm going to say baseball because you don't even start in the big leagues right away. You got to go through the minors. And if you struggle in the minors, you may never make it to the big league. So you got an extra hurdle, at least in the NBA and in football. If you get drafted, you're on the big roster already. That's not the case in baseball. And baseball is such a fickle sport. Can you hit? Can you pitch? It could be great one day and not the other. It's a random sport. So I'd say baseball.
All right, last one. We have some golf video here. Trace, I don't know if you know this. When you play golf, you typically play with a foursome, you and 3 other people. That's how golf works. I want to explain this to you. So, Elo, I'll start this with you. If you could take any former or current UCF athletics coaches, players, or administrators to round out your dream foursome. So you, 3 other people, your dream foursome of golf, who are the 3 other people that you'd want in your group?
First of all, is all these golf clips and topics because it's PGA Championship week? Is that why this is going on here, Adam?
Quail Hollow. Here we go.
Okay, fair enough. So it's got to be current on the administration.
It could be current, or could be past, or somebody in the recent memory. It doesn't have to be current, but administrator, coach, or player.
Okay, so I'm going to say from a golf. Now, does it matter if it's a good quality? Is the goal to be good golfers or just have a good?
You want good company. You want good company. You want to have a good time. You want to meet some good people. Take some good photographs.
I definitely want Terry on the golf range there. I think that'd be a fun conversation through 18 holes. I would definitely have other golf. I would have you, Adam. I want you on that
Wow.
because I feel like you can
It's a
carry
wasted pick. Wasted
alternate
pick.
pick. Oh wow,
Wasted pick. Yeah.
If a UCF person, I would also probably, from a coaching standpoint, that's a good one. I would go Rich Wallace. I'm going to go Rich Wallace. Baseball swing. I feel like I'm curious to see how that golf does. And then my fourth one would probably be, I would go with Mackenzie Melton.
All right, Trace, round out your foursome. Trace
What,
Trylko
one of the four I'm choosing for.
one of the four.
One of the four. Blake Bortles, I've been around him at these varsity nights golf tournaments.
Yeah.
If he's being hydrated, he's even more entertaining on the golf course. So I would choose him. Danny White. I'd like Danny White to be a part of that conversation. And Johnny Dawkins. I'd mix it up with a basketball guy. And me, I'd enjoy all of those conversations.
I need to put this on the poll and see who people thinks foursome is better on this one. It's a really tough call. Both.
My only
both
worry
guys.
about that. My only reason I didn't pick Danny White, I'm worried he would charge me to play with him on the golf.
If you win, you'll be PGA champions. He'll declare it right there on the spot.
All right, thank you, Adam. All right, Elo, home stretch here. Going to speed up our topics. How about the NFL releasing various parts of its schedule, the international schedules? They've revealed 2 games that will go up against the college football playoff first round on December 20th, Saturday, December 20th. Now, college football may claim Saturdays belong to them, but when you get to Christmas, maybe they don't. Eagles at Commanders, Packers at Bears sound like rating winners to me. NCAA, again, a tough road when you're trying to go up against the NFL.
College football. Didn't you learn your lesson last year? Just
They have not.
Go. Like, what are you doing? Don't force me this. And you know what's going to happen? Two of those games will probably be on Turner like it was last year. Nobody,
and then you got to remember to find it on that
right,
network.
exactly. Just change the calendar. Stop going against the machine that is the NFL. Why? Why are you doing this, college football? Be smart. But then again, this is the same sport that thought it was a great idea to do a semifinal playoffs on New Year's Eve because what? People would stop watching the ball drop. Get out of here.
I wholeheartedly agree, Elo. Next topic for you.
All right. In April, Trace, Grand Canyon abruptly cut its successful men's volleyball program. Could be the first of many schools to use the revenue share era to kill Olympic sports, even if it's at minimal cost here, Trace. Is that a concern of yours?
I don't think it's a UCF concern, right? You got to have 16 sports. UCF is at that 16 level, but sad for those players at Grand Canyon. A quality program, but this goes to show you, Elo, this is the danger for men's soccer. There's just fewer and fewer men's soccer programs, fewer and fewer men's volleyball programs. This was an NCAA tournament team, right, in Grand Canyon. Tough to hear. And the cowardly administration informs the coaches, won't let the coaches be there with the players, drops that on the players. Takes a question or two, and then they leave. Cowards at Grand Canyon. I will not be rooting for them in anything after the way they handled this one.
I think the good news for UCF Sports, you mentioned it, 16 sports. It's not like some of the other conferences that have over 20 sports where you're at big risk. So I do agree with you on the UCF being a safer option there. But yeah, I mean, men's volleyball, men's soccer, it seems like one that's targeted often.
Elo, let's switch to softball. 5 straight NCAA tournament appearances. You were covering it for your various roles in softball and Big 12. Not quite a championship there for UCF, but NCAA tournament bid. And maybe when you saw them get swept at home Iowa State several weeks back, you might not have seen this coming. Knights turned it around. That was a telling moment for them, that series, and they got it together after that with a young team.
Sure did, and it got him a 5th straight NCAA tournament. Only a couple of UCF sports teams have ever done that. An incredible job once again by Sidney Ball Malone with a young team to turn them and get in a regional. Not only get in a regional, Trace, get in with a 2 seed, and for the first time in program history, get to fly out of the state. To me, that's the biggest compliment you can imagine. You weren't just a typical Florida team that, hell, we're going to bus you to Gainesville or Tallahassee. Ha ha, LOL. No. They were sent flight out. Now, they got a tough regional with Texas as the host and Michigan. But how about that? Michigan and UCF, a rematch of the 2022 regionals in Orlando. It is, to me, if you look at the Friday slate, it is the marquee game of that Friday slate of the NCAA tournament. This program has gotten the respect, Trace, nationally, and it was shown again on Selection Sunday night.
They earned that respect, Elo, right? This isn't a brand name thing. They have earned it year in and year out. And in the sport, and you know this, right? Cindy Ball Malone is respected. Other coaches know how she is scheduling opponents, know that they are not afraid to move, go to Clearwater and take on those teams. They've earned this respect. What do you think their chances are of getting out of this regional?
It's a stacked regional. Isabella Vega and Caitlin Fell are going to have to pitch well. They're going to have timely hitting. They can't show their youth, if you will. But the good news is this team has experience. They're battle tested. They played a top 10 schedule this year. They've beaten teams like Arizona twice, beaten Florida, beaten Oklahoma State, beaten Clemson. Clemson, think about it, is hosting as well. So I think this team's battle tested. That matchup with Michigan is good. I think Texas has been up and down. UCF is familiar with the Texas roster from last year playing each other in the Big 12. So I think they got a shot. I think it's an entertaining series. In fact, ESPN is sending their third best broadcast team to that regional. I think it's a top 3 regional in the sport.
Go Knights. Let's see if they can continue the dream of this season, Elo.
The dream. Speaking of the dream, the baseball regular season is coming to an end here. UCF hosting Baylor.
That's been a nightmare.
No? Okay, well, I'll take your word. Hey, they did win the series against Texas Tech. Now they got a chance to make the Big 12 tournament. They're in this mix with BYU and Utah that's confusing. They got to take care of business against Baylor. What's your thoughts here as they have a chance to make the Big 12 tournament?
Every series is must win. You feel like you got to take 2 out of 3 to even be having the conversation. Elo, is there anything to be gained by this UCF baseball program going to the Big 12 championship? I mean, they're not going to win. They're not going to go on any sort of run, right? They don't have that kind of depth, certainly not pitching. Is there anything to be gained?
It's baseball. If you get in, you've got a chance to make a run. That's the beauty of it, right? That's why you get in. You just never know. I know that you don't believe that. You don't think they can make a run, but let's see what happens. Now, they got to take care of Baylor first. I mean, there are scenarios where they missed the Big 12 tournament completely. So, but I think they get a puncher's chance. Why not? I mean, teams make runs all the time. Heck, the St. Louis Cardinals right now are making a run at your Cubs out of nowhere in their division.
Yeah, well, there's a difference in the quality of opponents, but I digress, Elo. All right, set you up. You're the one that is much better with the props. You got anything for us this week on the fly?
Okay, on the props here. Last baseball, softball here, shall we say. Okay, this weekend, who do you trust to get more? Let me think here. It's a good category here. More base hits. We're going to go more base hits this weekend. Is it softball or baseball?
Well, softball may not play as many games. So what's your baseball?
Right, but I'm going to give softball the spread will be 2.5 hits.
So explain that.
In other words, baseball is a 2.5. If baseball has to get 2.5 or 2.5 more hits, then softball to win. Otherwise, softball wins. So
I think when you get to postseason softball, pitching will be at a premium. I still like UCF's chances to rack up some runs.
All right.
All right, time to bring back and Adam. Adam, what we get right, what we get wrong, how'd I do with Shehan's last name?
I'm still trying to do the math on that prop bet. Get back to me in a second here. You guys talked about Scott Frost's innovative mind. In his 4 years in Nebraska, his team averaged 32.2 points a game. In the 4 years of his time at UCF, Gus Malzahn averaged 32.9 points a game. So
they're both
some
innovative.
Context for innovation there. You talked about Varsity Nights tournament. Carlos McCants, who heads up the tournament, said it was sold out and considered Scott Frost's return as one of the key reasons. Shehan J. Raja is how you pronounce his name, Trace. Heartland.
So was
Sports,
I right? Was I right?
Not even close. Heartland Sports' Joe Tillery has UCF going 6-6 and making a Birmingham Bowl appearance. That is fantastic. You guys talked about Belichick. The Pablo Torre angle, Elo, is, according to Pablo Torre, on June 1st, Belichick's buyout drops from $10 million to $1 million. So if they want to get out on June 1, that drops significantly. Either side could get out. That allegedly is so that Belichick could explore NFL options, although those may not be available. And lastly, guys, Grand Canyon University Volleyball, their operating budget this year, $300K. The total revenue budget for Grand Canyon Athletics, $30 million. So they cut $300K of a $30 million budget.
One more thing before we go. Time again for a yard sale. UCF Style Saturday, May 17th, inside the venue. Begins at 10 a.m. Features items from all 16 UCF varsity sports programs. Ela, what's the one item you must have? You've got championship rings. Do you really need anything else?
Give me some softball jerseys. Let's go.
Softball jerseys. Look for new episodes midweek every week on the Sons of UCF YouTube channel and on the Sons podcast audio feed, where you'll also find Around the Kingdom Overtime. For Adam Eaton, Eric Lopez, I'm Trylko. Thanks, everyone, for joining us for this week's Around the Kingdom.